This week on The Swing, Natalie Allison tells us about the recent referendum on selling liquor in bars. We go behind the scenes of this week's editorial photo shoot. Julia Boyd asks students what they would do with $500,000, and Rebecca Wickel tells us about the small town of Graham. Hello and welcome to The Swing. I'm Al Drago. Last Tuesday, Elon residents headed to the polls to vote in a local election. One of the most closely watched parts of the ballot was a referendum on whether bars should be allowed to sell liquor by the drink. Here to tell us about it is reporter Natalie Allison, who covered the story this week. Hey Natalie, how are you?
Hey Al, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
So tell me about how the referendum got started.
Well, the referendum began last year when some of the local restaurant owners, specifically from the Fat Frog, which is a restaurant and bar in Elon, approached the Board of Aldermen asking how they could obtain a liquor by the drink permit for the town of Elon so they could sell things besides beer and wine at their bars. And the board discussed it and they said, well, let's let the people decide. And so basically, according to the ABC law in North Carolina, that kind of a referendum can't be on a presidential election year, which meant this was a good year for it. So they put it on the ballot, and if it didn't pass, they would have to wait 3 more years until they could vote on it again.
And did it pass?
It did pass. It passed 546 to 185, which was roughly 75% of the votes.
And what will this mean for bars and restaurants in Elon?
Basically what it means is that in a couple of months this will go into effect, and people in Elon can go to restaurants and bars and they can buy mixed beverages with liquor, and they won't have to drive all the way to Burlington or Gibsonville to get them.
Great. Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you.
When you turn to the editorial page in this week's edition of The Pendulum, you may have been surprised to see a provocative photo of 2 Elon students. Here's a behind-the-scenes look at the photo shoot and why such a revealing shot was put in the paper.
There was an issue with some censorship in one of the dorms on campus, and a girl was forced to take down a poster that had some nudity in it. But then at the same time, the university is encouraging prospective students to go see Hair, which also features a nude scene where about 40 students get naked. So the editorial is basically just about the fact that Elon is promoting a double standard and that they need to decide one way or the other about censorship and about nudity on campus. I was kind of worried about getting people together fast enough to do this photo shoot, and Garrett and Kara responded within like the hour, I think, and I got their emails forwarded to me that day, and it was just really easy to set up because they were both really willing to do it, and it actually ended up being a lot better than I thought it was going to go.
What we have done in our show, which is usually how it's usually done in the production of Hair, is at the end of the number, we are all disrobing our clothes and presenting ourselves to the audience completely nude. And for me, I took that as a message of diffusing anything else that another person might be looking at me and judging me for. So I am taking my clothes off to say, this is me. This is the organic form, the most natural form of who I am as a person.
In order to make people read this and make people want to be interested in the subject, we wanted to have some lead art that was really dynamic and that might even be controversial so that it would draw people's eyes to the page.
People are still talking about it. I got asked today, you know, did you get naked? And I was like, yes, I got naked. And they're like, oh God, that's so weird. And I was like, why?
And the fact that she has to take down a poster simply because her room is on a campus tour that has a nude person on it, it's baffling, especially at the same time when you have 40 some odd kids getting naked in front of the open public.
I'm hoping that we'll get some reaction. I think any reaction is good, whether it's negative or positive, because I think people need to be more aware about this. I would hope that students at Elon would pick it up and be like, yeah, this is awesome, this is an awesome statement, I agree with this totally, but I know that there's going to be some people that aren't. Like other people have said, I think that there's obviously going to be negative reactions, and it's just something that we need to be prepared for, but I think it's important enough to risk those negative reactions and to get this out into the public and to get people to read this editorial.
And I'm sure I will hear negative things from people, but I have just learned to accept that and respect other people's points of views, but at the same time, I hope they respect mine.
Last week, Elon trustee Vicki Hunt and her husband gave Elon $500,000 to fund construction of a new softball field. That got us thinking, if you had $500,000 to give to Elon, what would you do with it?
Hey everyone, my name is Julia Boyd and I'm reporting for The Swing. Today we're asking Elon students if they had $500,000 to improve or change anything about Elon, what would they do with it?
If I had $500,000 to spend at Elon, I would definitely spend it all on scholarships because the school is way too expensive.
I would give useful grants to students that are in need and students that have decent or relevant research. Specifically in the comm department, I would give grants to students that are trying to do senior theses.
I'd probably invest in some sort of yacht for the university, just for like, some sort of vacation for the students every once in a while, like Dean's List, maybe go out, have a party.
I guess I would use it to possibly spend, for like a daycare maybe, for like the teachers' children.
I would build 2 walking bridges across Taggart to make sure our students are safe as they're going to and from class.
I'd spend it on a sky lounge.
You'd have to be really high in the air and spin slowly so you could see all of campus in the city of Burlington.
I would work on the recruitment element of Elon, go into diverse areas around the world recruiting students, and I would also work on the what to do with post-graduation, working on setting up connections for seniors.
I would use that money to try to start like a zoo or something, or get wildlife into campus, so biology majors and stuff like that would be able to do research and experiments on the animals there.
I would throw in another fountain, to be honest, because it is so beautiful. We got 3 of them going right now. We could get another one, make it huge.
Definitely more fountains. We don't have enough on this campus, so.
I would put improvements in the health center because we spend so much money on like fountains and trees, and yet there's like 1 doctor in the health center for almost 6,000 students.
I'd put a big pool in, a big outside pool that everyone could just hang out at.
I would start a local food growing movement. I think the food here sucks and it's really unhealthy, and the way they cook it is unhealthy too. So I would just start healthier initiatives for food.
Probably put a sky ride through the campus so we can just ride into classes and it'll drop us off and be more efficient.
I'd have to go with scholarships. I know a whole bunch of people who are here solely on scholarship basis, and I feel like more people should have the opportunity to come to this kind of school.
One of North Carolina's greatest assets is its historic small towns. But between Raleigh, Greensboro, and Charlotte, sometimes they get lost among the big cities. Here's Rebecca Wickel as she takes in the sights and sounds of Graham, a small town just 20 minutes east of Elon.
So hi, I'm Becky Wickel. I'm a design editor at The Pendulum, and this past weekend I spent some time in Graham. It was really interesting going to the movie theater because I wasn't expecting it to be like a family-owned business, but when I started asking the man behind the counter, his name was Scott, and when I started asking him questions, he was like, oh, let me call the guy upstairs. And when he did, it was his dad. And his dad came downstairs like holding a cup of coffee, having a conversation with me about what it's been like seeing the theaters change since 1984. People just love to close up shop and go hang out in the town square. There's car shows and cook-offs in the summer, a Christmas festival with a train for kids to ride. There were people that objected to the idea of Graham being a classic small town. People said that it was contrived. I met a man who owns a local business there who said that none of the food is local, although it seems like it's, home-cooked meal. I found out that small towns were doing well because people want to escape the hustle and bustle and they want to come stop in. Either they're passing through because it's in such a central location between Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, all those bigger areas. People do love to come to Graham and just take a breather and get a milkshake, and so I've heard the business is doing well there.
Thank you for joining us here at The Swing. For the latest news, multimedia, and podcasts, check out elonpendulum.com and pick up the latest issue of the paper in boxes around the campus and community. Until next week, I'm Al Drago. Have a good day.